Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Sabre Roundtable. My name is Jonah.
I'm JP.
And I'm Christian.
And in this 41st installment of this podcast, we are so close to opening night. We are 3 days away, which is honestly frustrating because the season begins tomorrow for 8 teams.
It seems like a late start for us, doesn't it?
Yeah, like a two-day wait.
Yeah.
But the season is right upon us. Rosters were finalized today. We got a huge extension, and we're going to talk about the division as a whole, the team as a whole, our predictions and hot takes, which are always the source of good content. And, well, Christian force-fed us with some legendary stuff last year, so we got a lot to live up to this time around.
They did not pan out very well.
It should be a fun one. So with the Sabres, I guess we can start off with the big news. Rasmus Dahlin is going to be a Buffalo Sabre for the next 9 seasons. 9 seasons. 8 seasons following this one when his 3-year bridge deal from 2021 ends. He signs for the final number, $11 million per year, $88 million in total. The biggest contract signed in Buffalo Sabres history. Dahlin's here to stay.
Finally got done.
It is about damn time.
We were waiting. We've been waiting since July for this. We thought it was going to get done then. Everyone left. Everyone came back, and it was still looking like it wasn't going to get done because there were rumors about it being another bridge deal. There were rumors that there was discrepancy in price between what both sides wanted. But thank God it finally got done. And it got done before the season started because we were talking last episode thinking it's not going to get done until, partway through the season. It could be the end of the season. Never know.
I did mention during that this 4-day buffer would be the time to announce it. Because obviously they're off from now until Thursday. I think I did mention that towards the end of the episode, and what do you know? Spot on.
Well, look at that. LeBron James over here.
Another good Jonah take.
Yeah.
But I think the price is fair. I think it's, probably even a little below market value, but I mean 11 AAV, I think that's very fair. He deserves all that money, and I do really like how the contract is structured. It kind of, I don't mean to bring up the Bills again, but it reminds me of what Bean does, and he front loads a lot of his deals. Because it's worth $12 million for the first 2 or 3, then $11 million, and then it finishes with 10, which should be perfect. Hopefully we're good for the next 8 years, and we're gonna need to be signing guys. So it makes sense to have more cap space down the line. So I really like how Adams constructed the deal.
That I will say, going back to how that contract is structured, when that deal finally kicks in next July and that $5 million signing bonus hits his bank account, I can't imagine that feeling. $5 million right off the bat.
That's right. It's $7 million, $5 million, 12, 12, 11, 11, 11, 10, 10, I think. Something like that. Something along those lines. But yeah, I forgot it's a $5 million signing bonus.
$5 million signing. It should have been me.
Now, if we want to get into, I guess, general reactions from... Because inevitably, when news like this hits at a time like this, the NHL, it's not exactly in a dead period, but you still got 2 days, I guess a day until opening night, and there's not a lot going on. So this is inevitably big news, and you get general reactions from around the league. And, of course, you had a lot of people thinking that this was an overpay. You have the fans that always come in and say, oh, my defenseman making X amount of dollars looks so much better now, stuff like that.
I saw so many people saying, oh, he's getting paid more than Makar. That's crazy.
But obviously the deals were signed in the past. The cap is going up. And I think, JP, you did mention that Dahlin's contract is undervalued. I don't think it's undervalued. I think it's fair. It's fair. It's I would say it's not an overpay.
Evolving Hockey, they had him at 10.5. From their projections, I would guess
give him $500K more. It's whatever.
I think it's fair, but I think if he would have gotten $12 million, I think we'd also be saying the same thing. He deserves it. He's that good. I think it's fair though. I'm glad it wasn't more, but I think he deserves this money.
That Makar, I hate that argument so much, especially with him. I was seeing, it's not even it's not even when he signed it and how at the time, obviously with what the cap was, but like, he signed for 6 years. Like that's kind of the trade-off there. Even if he signed an 8-year deal back then, he was making probably 10 and a half. So you need to take that into account. And Dahlin's deal is fine. If he's making less than Carlson, which is a plus, and you're only going to see defensemen make more and more. I'm trying to think about who's close to a big deal. I can't really think of any. So Dahlin might be the second largest paid. He might be the second highest paid defenseman in hockey for probably a decent little bit. Probably until his deal finishes out. Rasmus Dahlin is a Buffalo Sabre for the next
decade,
pretty much.
Win with us or watch us win. What
Bars.
What a bar.
What a quote. That is bulletin board material. Something to walk past every day and just remind people.
Remind the rest of the team. Remind everyone.
What they're playing for. Chris Drury putting up pictures of the Stanley Cup in the locker room-esque. Stuff like that.
He did that?
That's what he did, yeah.
I didn't know he did that.
I think the story was he... First moment he got to Buffalo, he walked around. He was like, why are there no pictures of the Stanley Cup? Next season, there was like one in the training room, one in the locker room. It was everywhere.
Before we move on, Kevin Adams did mention that he's still in talks with Owen Power.
Yeah.
So I thought that was something interesting to note.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that anytime, immediately soon.
Yeah.
I would think.
I bet
something along the lines of the Cousins deal from last year where it was kind of... it's out of nowhere, where it's just kind of mid-season.
Yeah, I bet he's probably pressing hard for it before the season, but I'm sure they don't want to sign like we've said in the past.
Yeah.
I think they bridge him. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be like a 4-year deal.
Yeah. I don't know what to think because we haven't really gotten an official. We don't know what either side wants. We just know they're talking.
Yeah, there's really been no rumors.
It's really all we know for right now. So that is where we're at with that. So I have one last question before we move on from this. Is Rasmus Dahlin the next captain of the Sabres?
Easily, yes.
Yes.
Next year he will be the captain.
Yeah. A lot of people do like Alex Tuck, and I could see the argument for that, but Rasmus Dahlin is the face of this franchise going forward.
Face of the franchise.
Face of the franchise.
That's definitely it.
I've also mentioned Tage as the face of the franchise, but I don't know, man. It's something different about Dahlin. He's been here since he was 18. Like he said, he became, he was a boy when he got here. He didn't know the language.
Learn the culture.
All that stuff. Like, I really think he personifies what a Buffalo Sabre is.
Yeah. Next year it's going to be Dahlin, Cousins, and I think
Zemgus, because he'll still be here.
Oh, actually,
Big Z.
Wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't hate it.
You wouldn't hate it.
No, of course I wouldn't.
You wouldn't hate it.
All-Star Zemgus Girgensson?
You wouldn't hate it.
What, if Big Z was here next year?
Yes.
No, I would not.
I
know if you... Hey, don't pull up the tapes. Don't pull up the tapes.
Write that down.
Do not pull up the tapes.
Write that
now, if Okposo was back... Let's move on.
If he's... we'll move on, but all I'm going to say is, if he's fine this year... maybe.
All right, moving on.
He's a good guy.
We have opening night Thursday, and we have 2 quick preseason games to quickly go over, and then we can take a look at the final opening night roster that the Sabres are starting out with. So if we want to jump to the preseason games real quick, they had 2 preseason games left after the last game. They were in Columbus, and they were at home versus Pittsburgh. They dropped both those games, 5-3 in Columbus, and then an ugly 7-4 loss to Pittsburgh. The one constant throughout those 2 games, once again, the son of a gun did it again, Zach Benson. 3 points in those 2 games, 2 goals and an assist. This kid is something else, man.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, I would not have bet on Zach Benson to make the opening night roster, but he's certainly made a case for himself, and he's going to get his games to start the season.
And I do want to mention, both of those games, he was in very different roles.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Columbus, I don't actually exactly remember who he was with. I think it was with Rusek.
I think Krebs and
Rusek.
Yeah.
And then he was with Middlestead and Greenway on in the Pittsburgh game. So
And he's
very different roles, much more forecheck heavy roles, and still produced.
And
Still
Yeah,
looked
he
good.
he's still on that line too.
The
Yes.
Greenway Middlestead line, right?
So
Yeah.
So he does it again. Zach Benson. He made the opening night roster. We can just say it right now. He made the
the
opening.
kid is special.
18-year-old Zach Benson.
Drafted 13th overall.
He was 5 years old the last time the Buffalo Sabres played in a playoff game.
He's my brother's age. That's crazy to think about.
He is the first Sabre in my lifetime that is younger than me.
Is that true?
That makes me feel so old. He's 18. I just turned 20.
And it's not even like a.
What about Power?
It's not even like a smidge.
Ooh. Okay, maybe Power. But Benson feels younger than me, which is
No
weird.
doubt.
Yeah, Owen Power,
He
when he
also
got drafted,
looks-
he looked like a grown man already.
Yeah. Oh, Benson also looks a lot younger than.
Yeah.
He still looks like a kid.
So I think really the only other takeaway from these games, because it's preseason, especially in the Pittsburgh game, it felt like there were mostly starters playing in the Pittsburgh game at least, and they were going like probably 25%, 30%. They were not going all out, so you can only take so much away. But I guess I do want to talk about the goaltending real quick. Luukkonen in Columbus. What did we think?
He was fine.
Another fine
Meh.
performance.
Yeah, nothing stellar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I can never. Sometimes I could just never get a beat on this guy. It's just like it's so weird. It's like some games he's just an absolute dumpster fire, and then other games it's like, oh, he's got promise, and then there's those few games where it's just like, oh wow, this guy, maybe he's finally turned the corner, and then again he turns back into a pumpkin. I don't know.
Well, let's get to the Pittsburgh game. So, Devin Levi.
It was a rough game.
Yeah, that's that. There it is. There's your welcome to the NHL moment.
Yeah, not to mince words, he was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was not a good, not whatsoever. The Sabres were up 3-1 in that game at one point. Then it was 6 straight goals.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Pittsburgh went up. So not a good night from Levi, and kind of not the greatest thing you want going into opening night. And I do want to mention one thing. I thought it was really, really, really weird. Comrie didn't get another
I
start.
was gonna say.
Yeah.
I thought it's even weird. Levi played that game.
He didn't even dress that game, did he? I don't think Comrie dressed that.
No,
game.
it was Levi and UPL. I just thought it was weird. Like Levi's obviously gonna have he's gonna have the start on Thursday. So I just thought it was weird that he's playing the last game. Like I don't know. We all thought it was gonna be Comrie. UPL versus Comrie. I mean, but we also thought it was gonna be fighting for the backup spot to be a goalie. But obviously we all know that there's no backup goalie. We got 3 freaking goalies again. But
Yeah.
that's probably the reason they didn't, because it wasn't a competition.
Running with the 3 goalie rotation once again. UPL, Comrie, and Levi all made the opening night roster. So the question is, when do they go down to 2, and who's gone?
Right, because there's no way this sticks.
There's
right?
no way.
There's no way.
You can't do it. I don't know, man. It's just they got to just make a decision on someone. It's like you can't keep rolling 3 goalies, because like what Jonah was saying last podcast or whenever it was, it messes up everyone's flow. At least the goaltenders, like you said, Comrie didn't even get a fair shake. Remember, he was like, because UPL, he got hurt, and then UPL was playing good, and then Levi came up, and he just was never able to get consistent reps.
Instill your confidence in one of them. Don't say, "Oh, I like all 3 of you, but I don't like either of you better." It's just, you're both solid.
Kevin's he's like a parent. Oh, I don't have a favorite.
Yeah.
I love you all equally.
Yeah.
I really think they just have to move someone. They got to move a guy.
Well, you know what I think, and I don't think it's really been brought up, is like, if, whenever we go down to 2, Comrie or UPL, whoever it is, like, we have some decent AHL goal. Like, if Tokarski has to be our backup for a little because someone gets hurt, I'm not going to be upset. Tokarski's a fine goalie. Cooley also seems like he's fine. Like, it's not like we have a depletion of goaltending. Like, we have some good guys. Like, I wouldn't be upset if Tokarski was our third guy, basically.
Yeah, we have an abundance, but I mean, yeah, Tokarski, I'd be fine if he had to start a couple games. Cooley, I mean, that's more of just like a big roll of the dice. I mean,
well, yeah. Well, you don't expect them to be your backups, but
no.
Every now and then. But then then you're the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you have who's behind Jonas Johansson now? What's the guy's name? Matt Tompkins. Then you got Matt Tompkins.
Who is that?
Exactly. Like, there are worse goaltending trios in the NHL than what the Sabres could ice.
And don't forget, we got Michael Hauser in the back too. So
there you go.
We got goaltending.
Career .930 save percentage in the NHL.
Bring him back up. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this 3-goalie rotation. There's a lot of question marks going in. Into the season on the goalie front.
I don't like it because I feel like it's one thing like last season where it kind of just happened. This time we're going into the season planning for.
Yeah, they didn't have much of a choice last year.
Yeah,
because Anderson was their best goalie. Luukkonen was playing out of his mind when Comrie came back, and you weren't keeping because Comrie would have been on waivers if you sent him down, and Luukkonen, the fan base would have gone nuts if you sent him down. So they were forced to carry 3. Christian, you bring up a good point. Now they had time to prepare for this,
and they're choosing to do it,
and they're choosing willingly to do it.
Adams has said multiple times how it's not even ideal, and we still went through with it. I just don't understand it.
The message it sends me is that it's a team that they don't know yet. They don't know who the better option is.
I mean, we don't know.
Well, they got to figure that out fast.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they're banking on UPL to hopefully take a next step. So, I mean, we don't know. We think Comrie's going to be better, but who knows? But just make a choice. That's all I'm saying.
I wouldn't say they're banking on UPL, but they think he could do it, and they don't want to miss out on it. I think that's what it is. They see what's there. They see what is the potential is always been there with Luukkonen. He just hasn't gone out and grabbed it. Like he had the job last year. He was the starter, and then he fell apart. Slowly faded away. Slowly slipped out of his fingers.
I just don't have confidence in him at all. Just like we said, the last good season he had was in Sudbury, and that was before he got drafted, right?
It was, which was like 2 years after he had gotten drafted.
2 years after he got drafted.
So you just don't have a full season of complete performance, especially with the injuries he's gone through.
The hip surgery.
The double hip surgery.
Yeah, that's usually a killer for a goalie.
So it's just we've talked about this. Feels like so many times now.
Dude, we're talking in circles. I was gonna bring that up earlier. We're at the point where it's like, and I've said this before too. I'm talking in circles and circles. Like the season needs to start. We're just running out of things to talk about. But just new stuff keeps coming up.
We're just gonna be talking about goaltending all year though.
Yeah.
I wonder how long it's going to take for them to get rid of a goalie. Like, is it when Quinn comes back? Is that when we get a roster spot, or what do we do?
What happens when Savoy comes back?
Yeah, even Savoy.
Because, you're going to want... They probably want to see him in an NHL game, and you have to make room to do that. But here's the other theory I had, which it kind of just came into my head when I was just thinking about it. They could just do what they did with Luukkonen last season. They could send Levi down for a day, call him back up. They could just do that. They could do that if they wanted to.
You're right, but
I think they have? Was it only
that would save a roster
spot? They had a limited amount.
They did it with Quinn and Peterka.
Remember, they would send Luukkonen down for a game, play someone, and then they would call him up the next day for when he started, and then they would send one of Quinn, Peterka, or Krebs down.
Yeah,
something like that.
Oh, so you're just basically
It's
You're sending them down.
You're circumventing the roster.
It's just paper transactions.
Yeah.
That's all
paper
it is.
transactions. So I mean
because they're all waivers exempt.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean they can do it with Levi. They can do it if they wanted to.
He just doesn't actually go to Rochester.
No,
he just chill. He just hangs around.
He shouldn't touch the 90.
No.
They
Well,
could-
I mean, if it's more paper transactions, I mean, if it works, whatever.
Well,
But
it's not even that it would work. It would just give them. It's like giving them another roster spot because they can still do it with Krebs. They can still do it with Peterka. They could send these guys down for a game if they wanted to. So they have the flexibility to do 3 goalies for the entire season. They could,
Don't
if
say
they
that.
wanted to, they could do it.
They might.
I don't think they might, but I think they could. I think they're taking this first month or whatever, and they're gonna evaluate, Luukkonen or Comrie.
Yeah, and
That's what I'm
they'll
hoping.
both get 1 game this month when Levi's playing the other 6 games. So how are they going to evaluate? No one's going to get in a rhythm. How can you evaluate that?
I don't have an answer.
That's actually true. Yeah, because it's like if Levi's playing well, he's gonna play. So it's like, when are these two guys? You had your preseason. That another reason why it's so confusing why Comrie didn't start that last game in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you starting Levi?
And I almost feel like if they do this, like if UPL has one really good game and then Comrie has a bad game, then it's done.
It's
but
done.
I think if UPL were to have a bad game, they give him another shot.
I think I do believe that. I think the organization leans towards UPL.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I think they would give him a few more chances than they give Comrie if Comrie started off the season bad.
UPL's had more than enough chances to take the number 1 job, and he's had it, and it's slipped through his fingers.
See, I don't 100% agree with that because remember the end of last season? They didn't even dress Luukkonen they gave the Columbus game to Levi, and they didn't even dress Luukkonen. They didn't dress Comrie either, but they didn't dress Luukkonen. Did Levi was the goalie that dressed against Ottawa in Anderson's last game.
Well, I think that's more about Levi, not really about Comrie and UPL.
I mean, they were two meaningless games though. Like they were out of the race. And who backed up in New Jersey? I'm going back to look at that. I need to see.
I
You got
would assume
you got a half shot, bro.
I don't know. I would assume Comrie.
You got a 1 in 4 shot at this. Well, I guess
Definitely
1
wasn't
in 3.
Anderson. Yeah, he wasn't really backing up much towards the end.
It's all so confusing. I just I reiterate they had all off season to prepare for this, and they just did not. They just were like, well, whatever, we'll roll with 3 again, I guess. You're taking a roster spot away from a forward.
Yeah, that's why it frustrates me. Is there's other players who could have taken that spot who could have helped this team. I mean, don't get me wrong. Of course, they're not in the top 12 forwards, but Brandon Boyro probably deserved a spot. You could have made an argument for Lucas Rusek. You could have even made an argument for Riley Stillman or Cal Clegg, but instead we just got a third goalie.
Yeah. Do you think?
It almost feels like a waste to me.
What about this? Do you think if Levi plays out of his mind and he's the number 1 goalie going forward, do you think at a certain point they just go, we don't really care, we'll just send one of them down?
I hope
Whichever one, even if they each got like 2 games apiece.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, yeah, see ya.
I hope so.
Send them through waivers.
I also think that with the beginning of the season, like you never know. There could be a goalie injury early in the season, and a team is desperate for a goalie, and then you could actually
Tampa
get
Bay.
something. Yeah, you could actually get something for Comrie or UPL when maybe there was no value because there was other goalies in the market, or they had some other teams, have some guys cooking in the minors. Where now, with the season going, they need a NHL goaltender.
I'd be shocked if Kevin Adams hasn't been on the phone with Tampa Bay about trading one.
I'm sure
of the
there's been like
goalies.
an inquiry, but at the same time, it is a divisional opponent.
Yeah.
But still, it's like Vasilevsky's coming back, and the goalies you're trading for, they're not great. So who cares? Like they've proven that they're not the bona fide 1 of 32 starting NHL goalies. They're both backups as of now. That could change. Who knows? Goalies are voodoo, but right now they're backups, and Tampa Bay needs a bridge goalie for the season. Because if I was a betting man, the wise words of John Vogel, we know how Jonas Johansson, we know how he's performed in this city. And whoever the hell that other guy is, what's his name? Tompkins?
Matt Tompkins.
Tompkins. Like, they need someone. And maybe it is Jonas Johansson. If it is, I'll be pissed, but I don't know, man. I really think that it could be an opportunity. Don't send him through waivers. You lose him for nothing, but you can maybe get a pick out of him. But maybe you wait a little bit. I don't know. There's so many different variables going on.
You really rewatching the game just
well,
to
I
see
can't
who the
find him.
backup goalie
I'm
is?
trying to see. Hold on.
He's pulled up in the New Jersey game. We're reliving some traumatic past. This is unbelievable.
Enhance. Zoom in, Jonah.
We're losing 6-2 with 30 seconds left.
That is unfortunate. Wasn't that the game our season ended?
Yes, it was.
Oh,
and he
God.
just brought it back up on the pod.
Shut it off.
Come on, MSG. Show me who the backup goalie was. It's going to make me very upset.
Sure, if you get like
Somebody hug Levi. Come on.
up close shot of the bench.
Luukkonen dressed for the Devils
I'm
game.
not
It was
surprised.
Okay, so it was Luukkonen for the Devils game.
See?
So yeah, I guess do or die game. They wanted Luukkonen dressed. I don't know.
I don't know, man. I feel like just with each passing day, like I made my stance pretty clear last podcast that I wanted Levi and Comrie, but I feel like we've just been burned by Luukkonen too many times.
Well, it's really we've talked about it endlessly for the past 3-4 months.
Yeah, please, could we just?
I think
God,
let's just see how it plays out.
let's get to the season. We'll see what
Nothing we can
happens.
do. They're rolling with 3.
At least until Quinn comes back.
Yes.
Maybe they're waiting until when Quinn comes back, and then they'll.
That's not for another 3-4 months. So
Maybe that's how long it's going to take for a sample size. Especially like I said, if Levi's playing most of the games, these guys need at least a few.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So it could
Right.
take until then, which would make sense. That makes the most sense to me.
All right.
I'm done talking about goalies.
Yeah. Do we want
please.
to shut the door on this?
Yes.
Close the book on a tumultuous goaltender off season.
Yeah.
And by tumultuous, I mean no movement and just endless talking points about the same 3 guys.
Talking in circles constantly.
Yes. All right. Let's go over the entire roster of the Sabres because there's some other stuff to talk about. So I'm just going to read off all 23 of the Buffalo Sabres that are on the opening night roster. Jeff Skinner, Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, Victor Olofsson, Alex Tuck, Jordan Greenway, Casey Middlestad, Zemgus Girgensons, Kyle Okposo, Tyson Jost, Peyton Krebs, JJ Paterka, Zachary Benson, Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Samuelsson, Connor Clifton, Eric Johnson, Henry Jokiharju, Owen Power, and
Don't say it.
Jacob
Don't
Bryson.
say it.
Jacob Bryson.
He's your 7.
Jacob Bryson is on your opening night roster.
Yeah, he's your 7.
That surprised
That
me.
hurt
Over
me.
Stillman.
That surprised me.
I
know
thought
it pains
should have been
JP.
Stillman.
It surprised me.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. That is surprising.
It just hurts. I just,
Everything hurts.
I mean, I know he's only our 7th defenseman, but I do not want to see him play any meaningful minutes once, inevitably an injury happens and Jacob Bryson is playing in a meaningful game for us again. I'm done with that. I just can't believe they took him over Stillman. Absolute surprise. And the only reason I could see is that he fits their system a little more than Stillman, in that he's fast and puck mover, and I don't know. I don't want to watch Jacob Bryson play hockey anymore. Same with just like Casey Fitzgerald. That's gonna be my Jacob Bryson this year.
We were theorizing about which Sabre is going to get extended next.
Oh
Jacob
my
Bryson
God.
is an RFA after this
No.
season.
Give me a Jacob Bryson 8x10 right now.
Oh my God. I bet it's purely because of vibes. Like I think it has to be. Like he is so close with everybody.
What was the whole the one embedded they released last year was just all of them hanging
Out
out
chilling
at
with the boys.
him and Middlestad's place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was funnier because that's when Middlestat was kind of on everybody's struggle bus.
Yeah.
So it was like the 2 most hated guys. That's the hangout spot at their house.
That's the hideout. But yeah,
He's never leaving. He is our new Aristo. Sorry, JP.
unfortunate for you, buddy. And Victor Olofsson made the roster.
Victor Olofsson is on your second line to start the season.
That's what hurts more. I know he's going to make the team.
30-goal
but the
season
fact
inbound. Here we go.
He's on the second line. Come on.
Listen, if he puts the puck in the net,
That's all you can ask for.
I mean, but if he goes on another cold streak, I think it's time to move on at the end of the year. But
During the year.
During the year, trade deadline perhaps.
Sooner.
Wow, JP's really
Once he goes on
tomorrow.
Once he goes
Get him
on
out of here.
his initial hot streak, which is inevitably going to happen, trade him at his high point.
I mean, that'd be smart. I mean, you kind of know what you're getting out of this guy, but I mean, when it comes to the roster, obviously Jack Quinn isn't mentioned because he's on IR right now. Savoy also is on IR. So
I guess I should mention that Matthew Savoy technically makes the makes the opening night roster.
Made the team, and he's skating with the team still, but he is technically on IR, but he should be back in the next few weeks. But question, when let's say they want to get Savoy games and Quinn comes back, who comes out? JP?
Gee, I wonder.
Victor
I wonder.
Olofsson.
He is the guy.
It's going to be Tyson Joe's first.
Well, yeah, Jost is already out of the lineup.
I am genuinely wondering when Savoy comes back. Like, I think he's going to get games. And I think, I'm not even saying this because I don't like Victor Olofsson, but I think he could genuinely take a spot because, first of all, Kevin Adams, during his press conference today, was praising Savoy, said he was the best player at rookie camp, said he was primed to have a really good training camp. And I can almost guarantee that if he was healthy, he was going to be playing with Thompson and Skinner instead of Benson.
Probably.
So they are going to give Savoy a chance.
Yeah, I think they definitely want to see where he's at. What's going to be interesting with Savoy is we've talked about, or at least me personally, I've voiced my displeasure over the Shane Wright path, the development path that he took last year, that people think that it's like this new way of developing CHL prospects. That's not a development path. It wasn't a plan. The Seattle Kraken didn't plan for him to play for 4 teams in 2 months.
That's wild.
That is not what the idea was, and I don't think it would be a good idea with Savoy. Now, that being said, there is a version of this that is better than the regular Shane Wright path. What they could do is try and keep Savoy on the IR. But if Savoy's on the IR long enough so that when he comes back, he does his conditioning stint in Rochester and gets, let's say, 9 games in Buffalo, that could somehow get them to December, and then he would join Team Canada at the World Juniors, and then he would go back to the WHL. I think that would kind of delay. The Shane Wright thing happened so fast because he was bouncing between, he was never hurt. He was scratched for those Kraken games because like I said, he wasn't hurt. They just scratched him for I think 5 games. Then he went to the AHL. Then he came back up, played his games. Then went back to the W, played there, got traded, went to the World Juniors, then went back to the WHL. It was a mess. He was all over the place.
That's crazy.
That is not a development path. That is just I don't know. We don't know what to do with this guy.
That's just getting tossed around between organizations.
Savoy's path, if he stays on IR, then he's with the Sabres. Then he can get the however many games in Rochester. Then he gets 9 games with Buffalo. And then he goes to the World Juniors. And then you can decide what to do with him there. I think it's not great because it's still 4 teams. It's better than what the Shane Wright path offered.
So if he's quote unquote, the rule is so he missed the cutoff by 1 day.
1 game.
One game.
Well, wait, was he born?
No, it was I think he was born January 4th or something. But remember you said something about the COVID year that they shortened it by a game because the WHL owners are I don't know, greedy like that.
Yes.
But so he technically has to play this. If he's sent down, he has to play this year in the WHL.
Yeah, you have to have 4 seasons worth.
Okay, so I guess that makes sense. That was kind of gonna be my next thing. Before you said all that was gonna be my next thing. Do you think they just kept him on IR? Well, for good reason, because he is hurt. But you think they kind of want to keep him around so he doesn't get sent back to the WHL? Because he doesn't need to go back there.
And there's not even that. There is kind of the cloud looming over Wenatchee. The fact that Kevin Constantine just got suspended indefinitely from the league.
Oh, yeah, he did.
I mean, Zach Benson deserved to make the Sabres, but there's probably an extra motivation to not send him back right away to that situation. And I'm sure that applies to Savoy as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know, because we don't really know the timeline on Savoy, and we certainly don't know what they want to do with him. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Because as JP was saying, he was probably going to get the Benson treatment if he performed well. I think that's the guy. I mean, he's a year farther along, and he not arguably, he shouldn't be in the WHL this year. Whereas Benson, it's not a huge deal. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So I think that basically wraps up your 2023 preseason from the Sabres, and those are kind of the biggest storylines heading into opening night. I guess my only other takeaway from preseason, this defense is gonna grow gray hairs on me.
Yeah.
Once again. So
it's gonna be some what a barn burner hockey.
Yeah. Which I think
it's fun
because people are complaining about it. Obviously, was this team ever gonna go from like the worst in the league at defense to they're suddenly good at defense now? Like, no, it's gonna be a slow progression.
Yeah.
Can they just be better? Is that the question? Can they just be better?
Hey man, it could always be worse. You could be the New York Islanders.
If they're good at defense.
Right, but that is the most boring hockey in all of hockey history.
But it works. If the Sabres won a Stanley Cup that way, would you watch it?
Yeah, I'd watch it.
I was going to say I would call you an idiot.
But here's the thing.
Said no.
But here's the thing. The Islanders, they haven't won a cup doing that.
They got close.
Wasn't that the COVID year?
Oh, they lost to Tampa back-to-back years.
Right. But yeah, no, not a fan of that.
Yeah, not a big fan of Grandpa Lou and the Islanders.
No, not anymore. Lou did a lot of good back in the day, but just not it. I like the Sabres. I like the volatility.
All right. Well, with the Sabres out of the way, let's jump to our next part of our kind of season preview here. Let's jump to the Atlantic Division. And this is interesting. I do want to bring up, for those listening, a miracle has happened. Christian is very close to completing his first blog.
Guys, it's coming out. I got a blog coming out soon. I don't know when, but it's definitely going to be out before opening night. You should check it out. I previewed all 8 Atlantic Division teams, and I put them in order of where I think the final standings will fall. And spoiler alert, there are 5 playoff teams coming out of the Atlantic this year. Because in the Metro, all I really had was Carolina, New Jersey, and then one of either Pittsburgh, the Rangers, the Islanders. One of those 3 teams. So I was just like, I feel like the Atlantic, there's a lot more. The ceiling's higher, I think, because you have your staple teams that usually make it, and then you have like the younger teams that it's volatile.
It's a very interesting division this year. There's kind of a lot to break down here.
But it only took me a year and a half. I got a blog coming out.
It's more than JP's contributed.
Damn right. JP, you are slacking now, buddy.
Well, I should say that because we do actually have one more blog planned this week coming out on, I think, Wednesday, which the 3 of us all kind of contributed on. So that should be cool. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yep.
So exciting things coming there. The Atlantic Division. Probably the most interesting it's been in quite some time.
That is correct.
There are legitimately 7 teams that could make the playoffs, and I would not be shocked.
Who's the 8th, Jonah? Who's the 8th that doesn't?
Montreal Canadiens. I don't think this is their year. Something tells me.
Nah, I don't think so either.
Yeah. I guess that's who we can start with. The Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
Cole Caulfield. Bum.
The Caulfield slander from Jonah, it's just so unwarranted.
It will never
I just
die.
don't understand.
It'll never die.
I mean, like, when I think of Cole Caulfield, it was funny because, like, I know the Sabres, well, maybe not the organization, but I knew Sabres fans who wanted him in that draft. And he slid, and everyone was like, this guy could put the puck in the net. And then
he can put the puck in the net.
And then he got drafted because it wasn't at that weird time where the draft was at a different time because COVID was going on. So the schedule was screwed up.
Nah, he was, Cousins draft, so the world was normal back then.
Was it?
Yeah.
Because I remember when he...
You're just thinking about his playoffs.
That's exactly what I was getting to. Like that. That's when he
Mickey Mouse playoffs where all his goals were on the power play.
Okay.
Oh, congratulations, dude! You sniped one on Robin Leonard. Congrats. You got one in on the Snake Thief. I'm not impressed.
The Snake Thief. All right.
Eighth
place Montreal Canadiens.
We'll give you a rough rundown on the roster. They're big guns: Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Kirby Dach, newly acquired Alex Newhook, and it looks like Yuri Slafkovsky is going to start the year there in Montreal.
I mean, he should. First overall pick. I would be surprised if they started him in the minors again.
It was the wrong pick, but I'm kind of like on his side now.
Yeah.
Because like even the fan base doesn't like him, and it's like I don't like that, especially a market like that.
Of course they don't like him. It's the Canadians.
Who did the Canadians draft this year? Oh,
Ryan
Bacher.
Bacher.
And everyone went through so pissed.
Oh my God! Yeah,
the guy.
This is an understatement.
I feel worse for like that because he's a great prospect.
He's good. Yeah,
it's just.
But the Canadians fans were like, we have a defenseman like this. Why did we take him?
Well, Matvei Michkov is like just scored 12 points in his first 10 KHL games.
Oh, and
that's crazy.
And so,
Oh, and Zach Benson just made the Sabres.
And yeah, Zach Benson did just kind of make the Sabres.
The Coyotes should be, that's worse than what the Canadians did.
Yeah.
They missed twice.
So, they're on the Celebrini train.
Who's their goalie this year?
So they are one of the other teams. Actually, no, they aren't one of the other teams with 3. Well,
isn't it?
Cap Friendly says that Caden Primo was on this roster along with Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault. I don't know if that's true, but I know. I mean, heading in, they had DeSmith, but then they traded him to Vancouver. So Cap Friendly says Montembeault is on the roster, so that could be another team with 3. But Jake Allen, Sam Montembeault, those are kind of the two guys. Those are the higher end. I know Jake Allen had a good season 2 years ago, and then Montembeault might have cost them Connor Bedard because he had a pretty nuts year last year.
He was cooking.
He was having a good year.
Imagine Connor Bedard in Montreal.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd let that happen.
Why not?
He's not a Canadian.
What?
I don't see him being in a Canadian market like that. It does not make sense to me. I don't feel like the Canadians deserve a star player like that. But that's basically what it comes down. I know he's Canadian.
Connor Bedard is Canadian.
He is Canadian.
I don't think that happened.
The Canadians have a 21,000 seat arena. That'd be huge for them. You think in Chicago when I know again Canada with their markets, I guess they're not as their net worth isn't as high, but Chicago sold $2.5 million worth of what was it? Just tickets?
Just season
ticket sales when they got Connor Bedard. Yeah, and that is an original 6 team, so it is a good move for the NHL. But if that was in Montreal, I would say $4 million USD right there at least.
Yeah. But, continues the funny trend. I saw a stat the other day. Max Domi's 72-point campaign in 18-19 is like the 3rd highest scoring Habs season since 1999, which is crazy. Absolutely absurd.
How far that franchise has fallen.
I mean,
they've made a few runs.
I really didn't want to spend too much time on the Habs, but now that we're kind of ripping on them a bit right here, because now we're talking about Bedard going there, and it's it still makes me laugh that for 2 consecutive drafts in a row, or I guess I shouldn't say 2 consecutive drafts, but at least with the Slafkovsky pick, they passed on Wright and Logan Cooley. They had a chance at a number 1 center, which they have not had in 15 years.
And they took what? Was he a left winger?
Yeah, he's a left winger. I see the upside. Like, I really do.
Yeah,
I think he even had like a pretty good preseason, at least production wise.
He was fantastic in the Olympics too.
Yeah. That's kind of why he got drafted.
Yeah, you're right. And also he had didn't he have like an amazing interview with Habs ownership, and they just like fell in love with him?
Yeah, I think they took him out to like a dinner before the draft, and that's when everybody knew. They were like, okay, they might actually take him here.
And you know what he did? He took out a little notebook and a pen, Sean McDermott style, and they were sold.
They were so impressed.
Right then and there.
And he wrestled in high school.
And he wrestled in high school too.
Wasn't me this time who brought up the Bills.
I couldn't help myself there. But yeah, the Canadians are looking like a basement dweller this year.
Not an off. I mean, it's an interesting top 6 because you've got Caulfield, Suzuki, Newhook, Slavkovsky, and Kirby Dach. Like Kirby Dach looks fantastic. Like that looks like a great addition for them.
Yeah.
Like they got a young and interesting top 6, but obviously like they're in like their 21, 22 Sabres mode. They need another year of bottoming out. They need a high-end center talent before they really get this ship up and cooking. They're going to need another year in the basement. So I would be very surprised if they don't finish above 8th place in the Atlantic. And it is kind of a knock on them, but like the Atlantic Division is really, it's good this year. Like, it's going to be, even like the worst team is probably going to be like 80, no lower than 80 points. I'd be very surprised. All right, let's move on. Let's head to Michigan. Let's visit our pal Steve Yzerman and his Detroit Red Wings.
His Yzer plan.
Let's check in on the Yzer plan. So Yzerman took a path I really wasn't expecting him to take this offseason, and that's mostly because I didn't. He had that offseason, and he had the summer of 2022 where he went out and spent big. You know, he got Andrew Kopp for 5 years, and he signed Ben Sherratt for 4 years. And he signed Ville Husso for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And he signed David Perron, and he just signed a bunch of players, maxed out the cap, and saw where the Red Wings were going. And it wasn't good enough this year. They sold at the deadline, and it seemed like he was going through, like he recognized he had to do more. He had to draft better, get younger talent that was more higher end. And then he had another kind of summer shopping spree this summer again. He trades for Alex DeBrincat, signs him for 4 years. He goes out and signs JT Compher for 5 years. Trades for Klim Kostin, signs Daniel Sprong, signs Shane Gostisbehere, trades for Jeff Petrie, signs Justin Hull for 3 years.
Jonathan Bernier is he?
Jonathan, no, not Bernier. James Reimer. And Alex Lyon.
Those two up.
And Alex Lyon. So it looks like that might be another team that carries 3 goalies.
Where's Nedeljkovic now?
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So Detroit, they confuse me. I mean, it was announced today. They sent down Elder Soderblom, Simon Edvinsson, and Jonathan Berggren. Jonathan Berggren played 67 games for the team last season. And he's, 23 years old? Why are you sending this guy down? And Simon Edvinsson, who's basically like this franchise's Power or Sanderson, he's coming off of surgery. Why are you, like, you're going to give Shane Gostisbehere minutes over this guy?
Ghost Bear. Yeah, why not?
Like,
makes it better for us.
They confuse me. Just because where is the internal growth going to come from? Because you've got, I don't want to call them anchors, but Compher and Kopp are signed for the next 5 years. I mean, David Perron is 34, 35 years old. Why is he, he's good, but like, why is he getting ice time over Jonathan Berggren? And why, I mean, that Ben Sherratt contract just makes me laugh. He's making $4.75 million.
Same as Victor Olofsson.
And you're going to play him in a much higher role than Simon Edvinsson?
Yeah.
It confuses me.
It's the Yzer plan. Come on.
Come on, man. It's the Yzer plan, man. He knows what he's doing. Yeah, it is extremely confusing. It seems like it's just a big revolving door every year.
It's like a complete opposite of how the Sabres have done things. The Sabres have just been like, the kids just go.
And
Just
it's like,
go and let's see what you got.
yeah, draft, move guys up, keep them there, let them stay there.
For like 1 year though,
Yeah,
and then bring them up, and then
Yeah.
just let's see what you got.
exactly. They're like up, down, sign other guys in free agency, log jam the roster, send guys down, let them marinate.
Almost overcook.
Overcooked. When they come up, they're well overdone.
Well, the idea would be that they're ready to
They're
go.
ready to go,
They're
yeah,
ready to
yeah.
go. That's the idea.
And then here's the issue: they're ready to go. You bring them up when they, let's say, someone gets injured. You bring them up. They play games, and then they come. David Perron comes back from injury, and it's just like 35-year-old guys taking time away from the guy who's now proven himself to be on this roster. What do you do then?
Let's just call it what it is. Mid. Very mid.
The mid are playing.
Now let's move on. They're mid.
I feel like you're seeing three extremes from the Sabres, Senators, and the Red Wings. The Sabres are keep all your picks and just let the youth take you far. And Detroit is like keep your picks, but also sign a bunch of people and let them take those spots until the youth is like 100% ready.
That is the fun option, I will say.
And then the Senators are like, don't keep your picks. Have your good young core, but use all your picks to try and speed these things up.
You try and Tim Murray this thing.
Basically, yes. So you're kind of seeing. I kind of see them as like three extremes, and Yzerman's. I just don't. I'm not on board with it because it feels like you need to see what you got from guys like Jonathan Berggren or Lucas Raymond. Lucas Raymond I saw was lined up with JT, or he was lined up with Comfer and Robbie Fabry today. It's like really not. I don't know. You're not giving him much to work with there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So with the Red Wings, but like they're like a safe team. Like I feel like they're still gonna hit like 80-something points easily just because it's NHL talent. It'll get them somewhere.
It'll get them somewhere. Maybe if by some chance you sneak in, you're not going far.
Exactly. It's kind of like it's a high floor, low ceiling type of team.
Yep.
Right.
Which is kind of where you don't want to be if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we head to Ottawa? Let's head to our best friends up in Ottawa.
Of course.
Who we always have such nice things to say about.
Our best friends.
Let's start.
That Don Lean deal makes the Sanderson deal look so much better.
Let's start with the really, really, really bad news for Ottawa. No Shane Pinto and no Josh Norris to start the season.
Nope.
Josh Norris, I feel bad. That's just a bad situation.
Yeah.
This guy, he missed all of last season.
Played 8 games last year.
And he had to get surgery. It wasn't even a contact play. He hurt it taking a face-off.
Man.
And that's kind of that should be your warning sign. Oh no, this is not good.
Irreparable shoulder type of deal. Yeah.
And he didn't even play a game this preseason.
That's tough. Yeah. I wish him well.
That's out of Ottawa's control. They have no, they're just kind of in a bad spot there.
Now Shane Pinto on the other hand.
How did it get to this point? How?
It's
How
funny.
did it get to this point?
It's the summer of Pierre, man. It's the summer. Have you not heard? It's the summer of Pierre.
It's not like he's holding out for $5 million. He wants $2.5.
And they offered him $1.
$2.5, and they won't. They're not making space for.
They offered him the 1x1. I didn't even realize that was a. Is that a contract you really offer a 23-year-old who was? He was drafted 32nd overall, so he's a first-round pick, right?
Pinto?
Yeah. I was just on Cap Friendly. He was drafted 2021 32nd overall. Would that be the first round or the second round?
2019, so that was before Seattle got here.
Okay, 2019, my
bad. It would have been second round.
It would have been the first pick in the second round.
Yes. So,
again, the young guy obviously should be on your team, but you decided, let me just be irresponsible with the cap.
It was more, they went out, they signed Tarasenko.
Irresponsible with the cap.
Then they traded DeBrincat. And they go out and they sign Zach McEwen, and they re-signed Travis Hamonic, which they didn't have to do. And that right there, Zach McEwen makes $775, and Travis Hamonic makes 1.1. Add that together, that's about $2 million, and they already have about 60. They have 62,000. So they have about 200 or not 200, about $2 million in cap space right there.
That could
have gotten this done. Instead, you had to sign your gritty. They had to do their response to Ryan Reeves for signing in 3 years in Toronto. So they go out and sign Zach McEwen for 3 years. And then they sign Travis Hamonic again. When they have first-round talent sitting in their system.
I forgot.
Lassie Thompson and Bernard Docker.
Yeah. I forgot Ryan Reeves is on Toronto.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to them.
Yeah, I know we'll get to them.
We'll get to them.
But yeah, I don't... The Ottawa situation, I don't know why, but the Detroit and the Ottawa situation both makes me kind of laugh. It's just kind of like...
Well, Ottawa is just with Pinto. It's just so funny how they let it get to this point.
Exactly. How do you let it bleed on? So what's protocol from here on out if they don't sign him by when?
So
what happens?
Okay, well, it's if they don't get him by December 1st. Now, I thought maybe they would throw Josh Norris on LTIR, but they said he's day to day. I don't know what their plan is here. Because it feels like they have to move somebody. That's the easy solution. You can trade Kubalik, but they're not going to do that because they just got him for DeBrincat. They want to, Matthew Joseph, who makes $3 million, has been like the guy everybody thought, but then he had a great preseason. So I don't know what their plan is here. Something's got to give. This is, other than the top six, which is locked in and a very good top six, this is your most important forward on the roster.
So if he can't, if they don't get him signed by December 1st, what happens? Do they lose his rights?
He just can't play that year.
They don't lose his rights?
No, they keep it.
That's if I was Shane Pinto, I would never want to play for that organization if they did that to me.
Yes, your biased Sabres take. You wouldn't want to play for the Senators.
No, I mean seriously though, but that's just it's like a slap in the face.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Because then you can't play a whole year of NHL hockey. So it's like,
and then from his perspective, it's like because clearly what happened here is they, like I said, they traded DeBrincat, they signed Tarasenko, they signed Korpisalo, they did all these things before they got to him.
They forgot about him.
So yeah, it's like they forgot about him.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't factor in. They couldn't factor $2 million into their budget for him. And that's not a lot to ask.
You think someone would have caught that along the way? Just be like, hey, there's this, this guy needs to get done. We only got $1 million something in cap left.
They shouldn't have fired Pierre McGuire. Should have kept him around.
Pierre.
All right. Well, enough of the negative about Ottawa. This team has put all their chips into this basket. They've traded the picks. They've gotten the big name pieces: Tarasenko, Korpisalo, Chychrun. They want to make the playoffs. They are ready to take that step. And they have a great core in place. Stützle, Tkachuk. Giroux is still playing great. Tarasenko looks like he can still be something. Batherson, still a really sansolid player. And then their top four speaks for itself. Shabbat, Chychrun, Zub. And then Sanderson, obviously. There is something there. They have a great core in place. It would not surprise me at all if they take that big step this year. They kind of have to. They've traded all these high assets. Yeah, DeBrincat didn't work out, but you got something in value back for him. And then you went out and signed Tarasenko. And, you made a big splash in free agency, signing Korpisalo, and you're getting Forsberg back from injury. They want to take that step, and they absolutely can. It's just, it feels like they're handcuffing themselves. The Norris situation is out of their hands. But like we said, Pinto, this is on them. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Because, like I said, they do have a talented roster. It's just, it's a very vocal fan base, I would say, I think, as we've come to know.
Oh, it is. It is. And you know what? In good ways and in bad ways.
Yes.
As is every fan base.
Mm-hmm. All right. Where should we head next? Where do you want to go?
Boston.
I was about to say let's head over to Massachusetts.
All right, let's head over to Massachusetts. So the Boston Bruins, they have. This is an interesting team because we all know what happened. No more Bergeron and no more Krejci, and they didn't really do much. They didn't make a big first center. They didn't try to go and grab someone like Mark Scheifele or Evgeny Kuznetsov to try and supplement that. They're sticking with what they got. Brad Marchand was named captain, as we know. So this is basically the same team as last year, minus their top 2 centers. Now, they've still got Pasternak. They've still got Marchand. They've still got probably one of the best top 4s in hockey. You got McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, and Grzelcyk. And then you've got Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, who form one of the best goaltending duos in hockey.
Yeah, their goaltending situation's really good.
So there is still a lot to like from them there. It's just, how many teams can survive losing their top 2 centers?
They also lost a first-round pick to Tyler Bertuzzi rental, and they don't have him anymore.
That as well. They lost him. They lost Taylor Fall.
Taylor Fall.
And they lost Connor Clifton. They lost Nick Foligno. They did lose quite a bit this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
More than just Bergeron and Krejci. So
seems like half that team is gone now.
So what do you think? Do you think Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha can try and replicate some of that?
No, I hope not.
We hope not.
But I know I'm biased, but I really, obviously they're due for regression just because a season like that, they're not breaking any more records with this team, so they're not going to have as many points this year. That's obvious, but I mean,
still can't sleep on them.
I was about to say, as time has told us, I feel like it's a time-honored tradition around here, or is just on this pod, or as Sabres fans, we're always like, when are the Bruins going to die off? Is it ever going to be over? Are the Bruins ever just going to become basement dwellers again? Because they haven't in like 15 years. They've always been competitive. They've always been hanging around. They've always been in the playoffs. They've gone on a couple cup runs. The only one that worked out was 2011. But I don't know, man. Bergeron was such an important part of that team, just what he brought offensively and defensively, especially. Krejci, obviously he left for a while and came back, but he was obviously an important part of the team too. And that's the reason they won so many games last year. I mean, and obviously the goaltending. I think the goaltending, their goaltending situation is most ideal in this division. Just with Swayman.
I think their goaltending is also due for some regression.
You think so?
Well, I would think so. I think minus
probably.
Ullmark probably won't do that again.
No, but
the top 4 remains the same in front of him. So it's kind of like, there wasn't a drop off there at all, other than Clifton leaving.
I'll say don't sleep on them, but I think, and I'm probably going to eat my words, but I think this is finally the year they fall off.
I swear on my life he said that last year.
He did.
I did.
I'm pretty sure he said that.
I'm pretty sure you kind of did too.
I said,
actually, you were the one riding. Weren't you the one riding the bus for that?
No, that was probably no. I would not have been like, oh, the Bruins are done. I think it was more like, they had all those injuries to starts. Well, maybe I was.
I think you were. There was some team, and I thought it was the Bruins, where you were like, don't be surprised when they're not.
Oh, I know which team it was, but we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I have the same opinion this year, but I'll be right this time. So the Boston Bruins, the cliff is coming. It's got to be.
It's got to be, right?
It's just kind of a matter of when. Is it going to be this year?
They're not going to be a competitive playoff team. If they make the playoffs, I mean, maybe they steal a few games. Maybe they beat Toronto.
That'd be cool. Well, I mean, if you want them to miss the playoffs, you have to project a 40-point drop-off from last year, which is an absurd statement.
But they lost
a ton. So they will be interesting. I feel like I say that about every team, but that's this division. Like, every team has something about them. Like Ottawa, great core in place. Pinto and Norris situations. Detroit, they have depth everywhere. It's not high end. Boston, yeah, they lost a lot of pieces. They were a 130-point team last season. How much do those losses really hurt them to the point where they're going to miss the playoffs? Let's head to Florida. So Florida, coming off of the greatest run in their franchise's history, made it to the Stanley Cup final, killed by injuries, kind of torn apart by Vegas. They are heading into next season without Brandon Montour, Aaron Ekblad, and Sam Bennett now. And they dealt Anthony Duclair in the offseason, But they also signed Sabres legend Evan Rodriguez.
They did.
So what is there to expect from this season? Because I will also say they sent Spencer Knight down to the AHL to start this year as well.
Yeah.
So your goaltending duo to start is Bobrovsky and Stolars.
I don't know, man. They're like, I feel like Florida every year is a dark horse team. It's weird. I feel like they're, it's like a team that has that high ceiling, but usually they just don't hit it. But it's like every year you're just like, man, if they could just pull it together, they could really just, take off here.
Yeah,
but
we saw that. They took off
in the playoffs. They got hot at the right time. But I don't know. Usually, I mean, if history repeats itself, I mean, we remember when Montreal went on that run, and everyone got injured, and then they just fell off. I mean, it might not be as extreme, but I think we're definitely due for Florida to drop in the standings a little bit. They won the President's Trophy 2 years ago. They got bounced in the first round. Then they
snuck in last year.
93
points.
90, yeah.
And took it all the way to the final. I don't know if they're due for a drop-off, honestly. It's more, can they just survive until these guys get back? And can Bobrovsky pull off like a full season campaign? That's where I'm at with them. Because, I mean, it's mostly can they survive?
Yeah.
Their number one defenseman right now is Gustav Forsling. Solid defenseman, not who you want as your number one most nights.
Yeah. Will Officer Bobrovsky be on the case this entire season? I'm sure he will be, but will he be performing his job as well as his contract should state, What is he making? $10.5 million?
$10.5 million. The big bucks. All right, let's stay in Florida. Tampa Bay Lightning. The modern NHL dynasty, 2 cups, runner-up 1 season. Last year you saw they were human. Lost to the Leafs. The Leafs in the first round.
Of all teams,
even though they looked better in that series. They get bounced, but I should say they get bounced. They lose Alex Killorn, who's been there for years. And however, they get their first off-season of rest in 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm trying to because when they got swept by the Blue Jackets in 2019, but then they won the cup, and they were the runner-ups for the cup. And now, for the first time in 3-4 years, that core is getting rest.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, are they over the hill just yet? Because Stamkos not getting any younger, Hedman not getting any younger, Vasilevsky not getting any younger, and out for the next 2 months with back surgery. And definitely the talking point with this team, Jonas Johansson is their number one goalie going into the season.
We already spoke about Jonas Johansson. We don't have to re-mention him, but I'll never sleep on the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's just they've been fantastic ever since coming out of COVID. They've just been the team to beat almost every single year. They've been in the deep playoff runs year after year. Last year, like you said, they looked good against Toronto. They were probably the better team in that series. They just, the puck luck finally went Toronto's way for once in the last, 17 years or whatever. But they still have all their... I mean, these guys are older now, but these guys are still the guys. They have Stamkos. They have Kucherov, Hedman, Sergachev. They have all these guys that are still there, and they're not going anywhere. And I know, I've mentioned with Patrick Kane, once you get to a certain point, you're affected by your age and injuries and everything, but... Until that point where I see that with some of Tampa's core, I'm not going to sleep on them. I think they're a divisional playoff team, and I think we're going to see them back in the playoffs next year.
They're like the Penguins for me, and I don't mean that because the Penguins missed. I mean, it's like if you would have told me before last season the Penguins would miss, I wouldn't have believed you. Mm-hmm. It's more like a believe it when I'll see it type of thing. Like Tampa, do I think their Stanley Cup days are done? I do. Are they missing the playoffs? I don't know about just yet. This Vasilevsky thing definitely, it's an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah. Back surgery is no joke.
It's
either.
no joke, and he's already out for a big margin here. I mean, it's 2 months without Vasilevsky.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see about that. All right, last up, let's head to Toronto. The Toronto Maple Leafs, after a lot of there was a lot of talk about this being the end of the era, maybe trading Matthews. Nylander still doesn't have a contract. There's a lot going on. There was a lot going on. They let go of Dubas. This could be the last dance. They're keeping the core four. They went on a signing spree in free agency. Got Bertuzzi, Domi, and Ryan Reeves. They were able to extend Matthews for another 4 years. Or is it 5 years? They're going for this again.
Yeah.
What do you think about their chances?
I mean, I guess I can give this a little bit of a tidbit to the blog I wrote. I think this team takes the division. This is the team that's, I mean, they've had their ups and their downs. I don't know what was it? 2 years ago they won the division. That was
the North Division, yeah.
The North Division, and what was it? That was the first time since God knows how long. I think they've won their division twice since 1967. The other time they made the conference finals, I think it was 93. But I know it was 2 times. I think they're due to win the division this year. The core four is still there. I don't know what's going to happen with not Alex Nylander, Jesus. William Nylander after this season. If I was a betting man, I would say he's not there again. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid the way he wants. They've already had their issues with him in the past. He held out. They kind of came to terms. They settled.
They don't want to get there. They haven't gotten to his asking price this year.
Nope.
He wants double digits. They don't want to do that.
He was arguably the best player on that team in that playoff quote unquote run they had last year. Like I personally like that Tavares. Other than him winning, like scoring that OT goal, like the goal, quote, the golden goal, if you want to call it that,
the first round golden goal,
right? The first round golden goal where they celebrated like they won the cup. He was really non-existent. Matthews, he's worth all the money,
and he was hurt.
Marner, he's lived up to his contract. It sucks that they don't have Jake Muzzin anymore. His career's probably over. His neck is shot. Matt Murray's on IR, long-term IR, so he's probably done too. They got Samsonov backing up, at the backstop.
Backing up. I mean, right now he's the starter.
I was trying to say
Joseph Woll's going to be interesting because he looked good in that playoff series.
I was trying to say at the backstop, not backing up, but I mixed my words. But yeah, they're deep. They got Matty Nyes down there too. He seems like he's making somewhat of a name for himself. But I would say that Toronto takes the division this year. They'll probably edge out one of the Florida teams.
I think you see a lot of the same with them. Just they'll be one of the best teams in the league. They'll be amazing in the regular season. Fans are going to be hyping them up, saying, "Oh, I think this is the year." Like the
I don't know. I think they've kind of learned their lesson. I feel like I don't feel like I see Leafs fans saying, "This is it. It's going to be different this year."
They'll never learn their lesson.
I don't think they'll never learn. I think they have. They are believe it when they see it territory because they thought last year was it, and then they lost in 5 games.
Yeah.
So, well, that wraps up all the teams for the Atlantic. Who do you think? Well, Christian already stated who he takes the division. JP, what do you think the division kind of looks like by the end of the season?
I would think it's right. Leafs probably take it. They're probably best team. Then after that, I mean, it could really go any which way. Really, like biased. Like obviously, I'm a little biased. The Sabres could be up there. Lightning could still be up there. Boston could still be up there. Panthers could still be up there. I think it's. I don't think it's open, but I think it's not easily predictable because each team has a storyline. Like, are they going to fall off? Are they going to be able to overcome the injuries? So, I could see it go any of which ways, but we'll see. I do think it's kind of open for the Sabres to get one of the division spots and not just fight for a wild card spot.
it feels like Toronto has separated themselves. At the same time, like going into the last few seasons, I don't think they really had a direct weakness. Now I think they kind of do. They signed John Klingberg. He's a black hole defensively. Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi, black holes defensively. Like I feel like they have legitimate drawbacks to them now. And you couple that with Samsonov, who I've never been very high on. I think, like, I don't think this is the best team they've iced in the Matthews era, for example. That said, I'll just go with them as my division pick. They have the star power. They seem like they have the least amount of question marks heading into this year.
Yeah.
But like JP said, after that, the division kind of gets, like, you really don't know what to expect, which is both exciting and it's kind of, it's worrisome because we have the question marks too. We have just as much up in the air. I think Tampa still puts together another good season. They're probably my pick for number 2. Even after that, I just don't know. Because I feel like Ottawa I feel like they are due for a big year because they've pushed all their chips into the middle. Like, they're going for playoff contention now. At the same time, like, my Buffalo Sabres, man, like, I think this could be the year where they jump up in the standings. But then even then, it's like you're forgetting about Florida, who just had the greatest run in their franchise's history. Who, sure, they're without their top 2 defensemen, but they still got all their other pieces. And then you forget about Boston, who is still one of the best top 4s in hockey, one of the best goaltending duos in hockey. It's such an interesting, muddy year in the division.
I think the final month is going to be crazy. Like, I think it's going to be really close. Like, I think all 7 teams are going to have a shot with a week left, maybe. Like, it's going to be really close.
Yeah, like, my gut tells me, like, Detroit probably on the lower end of the spectrum, in my opinion. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they made a push. But, yeah, I mean, Buffalo, Boston, Ottawa, Tampa Bay, Florida, like, they're all in, like, the same tier for me. So it's just going to be so much fun to see how it all shakes out in the end. It'll be an interesting year in the Atlantic. Okay. So that long kind of overview is done. Time for the fun part. Our hot takes for next season. The best part. Let's start with the Sabres. Throw them at me. Give me your Sabres hot takes.
Doubling down from last year. Conference finals. Hot take.
He did it again.
They sneak in as a wild card team and they defy expectations. They play very well. They make it to the conference finals. Everything else, after they make the playoffs, everything's house money. Conference finals, Buffalo Sabres this year. Hot take. I'm going to eat my words so bad, but I'm saying it. I have to double down.
I love it. How many points did Dowling have last year?
73.
90 points this season.
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
He was hurt towards, we know he had a dry streak. If he didn't have that, he could have had 90 points. So I'm going to say 90 points, and I'm not going to guarantee a Norris because if Carlson goes out and does what he does again, or if there's so many good defensemen in the league, but I think he'll be a Norris finalist too. If he stays healthy, of course.
This one is a little tidbit from the other blog that we all worked on together. One of my answers to one of our questions that were asked. Tage Thompson, would he have 50 goals? I say Tage Thompson goes 0 to 60 this year.
I like it. I love it.
Hot take.
I was also kind of thinking that, but I wasn't gonna say it, so I love it.
Here's mine. I think Jordan Greenway could hit 20 goals.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that too. I like
that.
That's I feel like it's a hot take because he's probably going to be on their third line for most of the season, but I liked what I saw during preseason, and Granato could work his magic. He could pot 20. He could have 10 assists for all I care. I think 20 goals he could do. And another one I had, and Christian was mentioning in that predictions blog, And, I'll just say one of the questions that was proposed was, do the Sabres take home any awards? And obviously JP mentioned the Norris for Dahlin. And here's my take on the Calder race. I don't think that there is another player that could stand up to Bedard winning the Calder other than Devin Levi. And I say that because of the role that Devin Levi plays and his likeliness to make the playoffs being way higher than that of Logan Cooley or Adam Fantilli. I think Levi is going to start 50 to 55 games, and if he makes the playoffs, and if he has to be, he can't just be good. He has to be a great goalie this year for 50 games. But if he does that and he makes the playoffs, unless Fantilli or Cooley have 80-plus points, I think Levi's performance beats that out. And given that Chicago was going to be a basement dweller again, the league is going to want to vote for Bedard. But if he only has like 70 to 80 points and Levi carries kind of the Sabres to the playoffs, I really think he's the only one that can put up a true Calder campaign against Bedard. Not saying he will. I do not want to bet against Bedard. I mean, I know I'm betting against Levi almost, but I really do not want to bet against Bedard. But I would not be surprised, or I think it's in the realm of possibility that Levi could do that, and he's the only one that could take it away from him if Bedard stays healthy.
I agree. I like that.
Hot take, Jonah Aarons.
I don't even think this is a hot take, but Sabres make the playoffs. Donnie Granado is a lock for the Jack Hams Award. Absolute lock. I've been saying that since last year. I think he'll easily get it this year as long as the Sabres make the playoffs and don't just like squeak in. As long as they like, oh yeah, the Sabres make the playoffs like firmly, I think he's Jack Adams. Unless there's some other crazy storyline like obviously Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, Christian?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, man.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm thoroughly going to eat my words. So I think
I
I've
have
done
one
a
more.
good job.
Okay.
Cousins had 30 last year. His line mate next to him who's going to play the whole season gets
Victor
30 this year.
Olofsson?
Definitely not Victor Olofsson. JJ Petorka
You
gets
walked
30
into
this
that
year.
one, JP.
I guess here's a fun hot take. How about this? Victor Olofsson stays on this team for the whole season, pots 30 goals, and plays with this team potentially in the postseason.
And signs an extension in the offseason.
I won't go that far, but there's a good hot take.
JP,
Olofsson hits 30 and plays with this team for like most of the 82 games.
I can't wait for the reaction from JP.
I would not put money on it, but
when
I'm just throwing it out there.
when they extend Bryson and Olofsson.
How many points did Middlestead have last year? He finished with what?
It's like
Oh,
the
jeez.
Scheifele Hellebuck thing from before where they announced it together.
Yeah.
And the Sabres like, we have an announcement. Jacob Bryson and Victor Olofsson have been extended for 5 years.
Oh, I would pull out all my hair. How many points did Middlestead have last year?
59.
All
He's
right,
one away
I'm
from
gonna
60.
say 70.
70 points for
Wow.
Casey Metz.
Maybe 75. I mean,
Wow.
with
That's
how-
a hot take.
with how good he was.
That is spicy.
Okay, his last few months of the season, he was a point per game player, had some of the most primary assists in the league.
Also playing in a pretty big role.
Yeah.
That is true, but I think if he pulls together a whole season, he could do that.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Let's spread this out. On to the NHL. Hot takes for the league as a whole heading in. I'll start it off. JP alluded to it before. Last year, I mentioned that I didn't think the Rangers would make the playoffs because I didn't think Shesterkin could repeat what he did the season prior, where he had one of the best seasons in the modern NHL. Obviously, that didn't happen last year. The Rangers improved for the most part. But this year, I'll say it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think the Rangers will miss the playoffs this season. They bowed out early last year. They didn't really improve. There's turmoil going on with Lafreniere having a bad preseason. And I think with the improvements that Pittsburgh made, for example, I think like my top 3 for the Metro, I think, is New Jersey, Carolina, Pittsburgh. And then you take into account how good the Atlantic is this year. I think the Rangers have a good chance of missing this year. I might be wrong again. 2 years in a row. I'm going for it this year. I'm making a bold prediction.
I think Boston misses the playoffs this year. I don't know
comfortably or barely.
I'm gonna say comfortably miss the playoffs. They lost so much. I just don't like it, if they somehow manage to be competitive this year and like be in the playoffs. They're just it's a cockroach at this point. You're not killing it. It's just not gonna happen. But I really don't think that I don't think they have a good roster anymore. They lost a ton of pieces to that record-breaking team. Like it's a different team now. I could see them comfortably missing the playoffs.
Pittsburgh made a huge move to get Erik Karlsson. They don't even make the playoffs.
It's not going to pan out for them?
I mean, I think he's still going to have a great season, but don't make the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, I like that one. It's kind of the yin to my Rangers yang. It's one of those two are missing. I like that. Here's one. Vegas has a hard cup hangover.
You think so?
I think their cup run was kind of deceiving for how dominant it looked. Like the advanced numbers didn't really come out on top in much of the series. They just had hot goaltending, and their finishing was very high at the time. And they lost Riley Smith. I think Aiden Hill isn't like this. He's not this amazing starter. I'm not saying they're proclaiming him to be, but they're obviously signing him to be his starter. And I don't know. I think they might disappoint because Mark Stone is on and off the ice all the time. I think it's a weak West, so I don't think they'll miss the playoffs. But I think they'll bow out early. They'll have a cup hangover.
And speaking of Vegas, a little breaking news. Jack Eichel named an assistant captain for the Vegas Golden Knights.
But I thought he wasn't a leader. I thought he couldn't lead.
He didn't have that leadership mentality.
I got one. Coyotes going to surprise a lot of people.
I like that one.
I was thinking.
Gonna
I
surprise
thought about
a
that
lot
one.
of people.
I
Cooley's
like
going to have
that
a
one.
really good year. They kind of did better than most people thought they would last year.
They did good last year. Their forward group is like really underrated. I mean, you got Keller, Schmaltz, Baird, Hayton, then you got Logan Cooley, you got Lawson Krause. I know Gunther's in the AHL to start, but they could always call him up at some point. They got they got something there. Oh, I forgot they got Mateus Michelli, who had a great rookie season last year. They got something there. Then you've got Vamelka and net. They just kind of need their defense to, I guess, hold strong. But I could see them being a dark horse for the West wild card, especially given it is kind of a weak conference.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that one. That's a good one.
Let's get some playoff games and.
Oh my God! If Mullet Arena has playoff games, that would be so funny. That would piss so many people off.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, Stanley Cup predictions.
I'm gonna say.
Do you recall what ours were last year?
I think both
I remember
of us had
mine.
the Oilers.
I think I had the Oilers over the Leafs. I don't remember who you said.
I'm gonna go with. Here's the thing. The hot take I was gonna give was Edmonton isn't gonna be as good as people think they're gonna be.
Okay.
And my reasoning for that is they're very power play heavy. They're big power play merchants. You stay out of the box against them, you have a shot. Obviously, McDavid and Draisaitl, two of the best players in the game. But it's like I feel like the narrative every single year is the same. It's like they have those guys. They're just those. I feel like it's just those two guys. Like they have depth too, but it's like I feel like everyone else goes radio silent. But I don't know. If I had to make a prediction for the Stanley Cup Finals, I'm going to say it's going to be the New Jersey Devils and the drum roll Dallas Stars.
you got the Dallas. You got the Devils over the Stars.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've got the Dallas Stars over the Hurricanes.
I didn't want to say I was thinking the Hurricanes, but I didn't want to say them because
I just don't believe in them as a playoff team. They just haven't shown it.
Well,
they have no conference finals wins with that core.
Well, mine was going to be for a lot more immature reasons. Mine was because my hot take was the Sabres make the conference final, then that would mean the Hurricanes beat us in the conference finals that year, and I don't need any of that.
Why would you? Yeah.
Yeah, so
I was also thinking.
I said the Devils over the Stars in 6 games.
I was also thinking the Devils, but I against my own. I don't want to say it, but I do think the Dallas Stars are good. It's their year.
They're a good team. They're a good team.
They are very complete. I just don't know. I don't know. It feels like there's no build up. Like like every team. Not that every team has to hit rock bottom, but it feels like they're missing that breaking point before they can really take off. Like their path has been too linear to this point.
Yeah.
I feel like something has to happen. So I'm going with. I think the Oilers.
I think they finally get to the cup.
I think they get there.
It's fool's gold, just like the Leafs. It's their year.
I feel like the Devils, they're everybody's pick, but I just can't see another team matching up to them. I really can't. So I'm going to go with the Devils, but I don't think they're ready just yet. I think their goaltending is going to cost them in a series against McDavid, for example. I just feel like, I don't know. I mean, that's the thing with Stanley Cup predictions. There is no easy answer, but I feel like the Oilers. I feel like McDavid's just got to break through at some point. At some point, it's got to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Dallas, or even if the Avs made another run at it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I guess I'm going with Edmonton over New Jersey. That would be a fun series. McDavid and Hughes.
That would be fun.
Yes. Okay. Now, before we sign off, I know this has been a really long episode. We asked you guys to send in some questions for us to talk about before the season starts. So we're gonna go over some of those real quick. So I think we'll start off from this one. This one is from Sam Harasimowicz, and he asks us, "Do you honestly believe Levi is the answer at goalie?" And I think we would all hope that the answer is yes long term, but I think this question is definitely pondering right now. So is Devin Levi right now the answer at goalie?
I was going to say only time will tell with that, but as of what we've seen last year in the limited amount of games, sample size is small, but yeah, I think he is the answer at goalie.
I think he is, but he almost has to be if we want to be good. So, regardless if you think a rookie goalie can make that big step or not, Sabres fans kind of have to think he can because he has to if we want to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the right sentiment. He kind of has to be, and
like a lot
I don't know. He just has the ability to make you believe. It's like if it was
Yeah.
any other 21-year-old goalie, I'd be like, no, but there's something about this kid, man. He's definitely special.
Yeah.
So,
all the other fans around the league kind of ragging on us for believing in him so much, but it's we have to. So I don't blame him for ragging on us at all, but it's just the situation we're in.
We got to put our chips into this basket.
Yep. And the Sabres are. He was one of the headliners in the Embedded video today. So.
mm-hmm. So this one is from J.Sultana06, and he asks us, what could Levi's contract look like?
Ooh.
I like that one.
It's a good question
because he's
but that's
eligible next
tough.
summer, and we know Adams likes to get a head start on them.
I mean, if he goes out and plays 50, 55 games, he's gonna get a decent contract.
And he has. You also have to remember he has all the leverage.
He has all the leverage.
If he has a phenomenal season, he has all the leverage in the world.
Oh boy, I don't even know. I don't want to think about that.
And it's
Neither
also
do I,
weird because
yeah.
there's really no precedent for this. How many goalies get a big contract at this age? Because most goalies don't get into the league until
They're 24.
24, 25.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's older, but Sorokin's 8x8 deal, I think, could be a good comparable.
Mm-hmm.
But with the cap going up and with him having the leverage, who knows?
Yeah.
Might almost be a bridge, honestly.
Yeah, he could be a bridge candidate. Plus, goalies.
You think like 4 or 5
Exactly.
years,
Do you,
maybe?
do you want to commit 8 years to a goalie? I mean, I love Levi, and I think he's special, but he is a goalie.
Yep. It's
Okay.
scary to think about.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. I hate goalies, man.
Yeah,
Why does there have to be so much uncertainty?
We say the cap's going up and it's exciting to get these players signed, but man, it's a little terrifying that we're gonna have to sign all these players.
Mhm.
Quinn,
Starting next
Peterka,
summer.
Talk
Yeah.
is sometime soon. Like, it's gonna be scary.
You got to think, too, some of these guys you're just not going to be able to sign.
Okay, next up. This one is from Ryan Rothberg. He asks, what does Kevin Adams do with Savoy when he's off IR? And we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I guess we can give more a more direct answer. I think he gets
the
he
games.
gets a look.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
give him a look.
Yeah.
I agree. I think he gets a look.
Like you said earlier, it's better than sending him right back to the WHL where he's in that terrible situation.
Or scratching him,
yeah.
then sending him to the A. Bringing him up, then sending him back.
Yep.
I think he could easily take Olofson's spot. But even if Benson's struggling and if Savoy comes back in the next few weeks, he could also go in his spot.
Mm-hmm. This one is from A Trust 74. He asks, who's the future captain after Okposo in light of Dahlin's extension?
It's going to be Rasmus Dahlin.
1,000%.
Again, this episode's been so long. We've already answered all your questions. It's like he personifies what a Buffalo Sabre is. He's going to be here for the next decade. He's been here since he's 18. He knows the culture. He learned the language. He's really invested himself in the city. I think he'd make a great leader. He'd make a great face of the franchise.
Yeah, I think he could take it on, and it's hard to be better than Okposo because he really is such a great captain, even if you don't like him as a player. But I think Dahlin, he could take that step as a team leader.
This one is from Peter Duoma, and he asks, "What is the likelihood of Zach Benson playing this year?" Now, I would assume this means playing beyond the 9 games. So, what do you think the likelihood of that happening is? If you could put a number on it,
Like a percentage.
a percentage.
I'm gonna say 35 to 40%.
I was gonna say 40%.
I'll go a bit lower on the spectrum. I'll say 25%.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how he plays.
Yeah, he's gonna have his chance.
If they can't leave him off, they can't leave him off.
Yep.
I still do think he'll go back to WHL, but once again, like Kevin Adams has said, if a player proves his worth and he makes it hard on them to make a decision, I hope he stays. That would be incredible. And an 18-year-old. Oh my God.
Heath_GM asks, where do you see UPL going in the future? Personally, I think a Levi UPL tandem could be lethal. This is the wrong podcast to ask if UPL is sticking around.
Mm-hmm.
It could be lethal. He's not wrong.
It could be. We were saying, the potential has always been there.
We're gonna
Whether
keep
he
saying
achieves
that.
it.
How many more years of control do we have on him?
Ooh, RFA. That's a good question. I don't exactly know. Probably 1 or 2 after this deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't think he's the answer. I don't think it's a lethal tandem at all. Because again, he's streaky. So it's like, he could be lethal as a backup. So maybe he's right.